Hey traders, it's Leaf West. I thought I'd do the morning outlook today in video form. See how that goes. I'm going to go through all the major indices and look at reasons why we could be getting support here, at least short-term support at these levels, why it makes sense, and then look at projected sort of resistance areas going forward. So I'll quickly go through all those indices. I'm going to jump between a 130 minute and a 60-minute chart just so people can see. This is the S&P 500 index, and this is a 130 chart. And you can see again, here's the big move from when is that? That's yeah, December 20th. Really, December 19th is the bottom, then the 20th is a kick off the gap and go. And you can see the trend with the moving averages being in bullish formation, with the 10 being above the 20 and the 20 being above the 50, and all of them being above the 200. And we can just see that the 10 has just crossed over the 50, crossed over 3-4 days ago the 20. And in the S&P, we found that from the last low, this is my target zone. This from the top of this is kind of wave three of the bigger three, and this is the four of the bigger three. So this whole area, this 133 area, was 133.34 in the S&P. I'm talking the SPYs there for a minute. Anyways, this whole area is where I think this move should go to. But I think we're going to bounce. It's a corrective pattern, I believe. So we're going to have of lots of ups and downs. I think that yesterday probably was the low for this first push down, and I think it really is a first push down. I'll show you why. If you look at this last leg of a move, look at momentum here. I find this a very good indicator that if we start here, yesterday's low was the lowest low of all for that whole last leg. So I believe that after we bounce, we're going to come back to at least test this low and possibly set a new low in terms of price. So maybe we'll get down to that top of that wave 4, which would also be at the 61.8 level, the 1330.18 level. But I think what's going to happen in the interim is we're going to have a bounce and then possibly maybe a move like this, and then a move like this, and a move like this, and then like this. And then you could say that, you could say that this is a triangle. That's possibly what we're going to get to. So then we'll get to my wave 4 kind of goal, and we'll get to a wave 4 kind of pattern look, and then we'll drive to a maybe a marginal new high or a bigger new high. We'll see how this fourth wave goes and the mentality coming out of that. Anyway, so that's the S&P. That really is what we're looking for. And if we were to quickly look at, hang on one second. Okay, so here is if we do bounce here off the lows from yesterday, the logical resistance areas are just typical Fibonacci levels that we always look at. And you can see the grid here, and I'd look at that sort of 1350 level to 1355 level. And does that make sense just from looking at prior support resistance? You could sort of, if you want to, you could draw, just get rid of that. You could draw a trend line across the top here where we saw support and resistance previously. Right, that's kind of a straight line. Right, and let's just change that style a little bit so you can see it better. So it was resistance here 3 times more or less, and then broke the resistance, came back and tested it, and away we went. So I would think that that will be a line in the sand that the market has to get through. So I'm looking for that to happen in the spiders here in the short term. So again, I think it's going to form into a triangle. We're going to get down to that 1332 level, 1330 level. And why don't we translate that into spiders? So let me just call it the spiders. Hang on one sec. Okay, so here's the spiders again, the 60-minute chart, and you can see from the last sort of corrective low, if we draw a retracement grid on that, we can see that the 50% level is right here at 134.12. So it's a little different than the S&P 500 cash index, but we're almost at a place where, well, if you look at the big congestion area here, it made sense that price at least pauses at that level. We're not quite at the 50% level that we saw on the S&P cash index, but we did the same sort of thing as the S&P cash. We did set a new low in momentum, so I am expecting again the bounce to find resistance and then to carve out what I'm thinking is going to happen, right? So we're going to get a move up and a move down, set that new low that we're talking about, get a bounce, get a move down, and then off we go, right? And then you're going to be able to say that this is your triangle, a typical wave 4 pattern. So that is what I am looking for. So without pulling the retracement grids up here, and I'll do that in a second, you can sort of see again that this bounce should find resistance in this area here. So if I were to draw just a line that sort of showed me, just from looking at prior price congestion, let's draw a little different pattern so you can see it better. And let's get rid of, no, I can leave those other ones up just because you can see how possibly that pattern could look relative to where that resistance could be. And that price level is 135.86. So that, I think my goal on my long right now is, my first goal was 135.50, which is kind of right at the bottom of this candle right here, and kind of right at the top of these ones here. And then I think it was 136.10, I believe. I forget why I have that number, but I pulled it out of some chart I was looking at. And let me look at the other retracement grids on this one in terms of resistance. Hang on one second. Alright, so here is the retracement grid going from the top, the high of last week, to yesterday's low. And you can see that the 50% level is right here at 136.28. So I think, and that's right at the bottom of this swing low. So I think that's really going to be an area that the market will have a tough time getting through on the first go. And that's a more major resistance area because it measures the whole move down from top to bottom. And if we call up the more minor wave, which is the last push lower, so from this swing high down to this swing low, we can see that the 50% level again is right near this line where I think it makes logical sense for resistance to come in. So I'm looking there. 135.50 is for me a good place to take profits on the move higher this morning. And I think pre-market that S&Ps or the spiders are at what are they, about 135.22 as I record this now. So we're almost at 10 minutes. So that's really again what I'm looking at. I'm going to go quickly through all the other indices though, just to show you some interesting. So here's the Dow, just to show you where we're finding support. So really from the last swing low to the high, we pulled in almost perfectly to the 61.8 level. So that made perfect sense for price to find support there. We did make a new low in momentum. So again, I think we have unfinished business. This is the Nasdaq. It's a little more stronger. We haven't even got down to the 50%. Thank you, Apple. But I drew a trend line in here, which was support here for this sort of consolidation. It was resistance here, support here. So I think that makes why we found traction there yesterday as well. So that made sense. We didn't make a new low in momentum. So that's interesting. So the Nasdaq could be the strongest index leading this bounce here today. over the next couple of days, however long it takes. And then finally, I'll look at the Russell. And the Russell, I blogged about that a bit on last week or so, just on how it was breaking down. And I had a rectangle sort of pattern drawn, and I said you gotta watch to see which way it was going to break, and it broke this way. And we looked at it. We traded that a bit, but nothing spectacularly. Um, but interesting thing is, momentum really isn't making new lows for this leg of the price pattern. So it makes you wonder if we're not going to see good support here as well. And we didn't make it down to 50% as well. Like we're going out a bit longer in terms of time for this wave pattern because that's just where the wave really started. But we are around the 38.2, kind of where price congested previously. But look, we made a higher low in momentum. So I think the Nasdaq and the Russell could surprise people on how they bounce over this next couple of days. So I would watch that going forward. So that's the morning call or the morning outlook for today, March 7th. And I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.